Welcome back to NewsMakers. We are with the Family Help Trust, Chairwoman Dr. Annabel Taylor and the Founder-Director Libby Robins. Now, I suppose the general punter wants to know, are these programs making a lasting difference? If I was to give money to the Family Help Trust, how do I know that it's actually going to do a skerrick of good? How would you answer them?
Would you like to answer that one?
Well, it's a very good question. I think we should be asking that question of all of the money that we pour into social services. We've taken the research, evaluation research, very seriously in our trust. I mean, none of our board members have got the time to be attending meetings at night and putting effort into fundraising and so forth. It's a lot of effort goes into fundraising, and none of us are prepared to do that without hoping that it's having an effect and it's an effective service. So we embarked on evaluation research years ago now. 2006 we had our first quantitative evaluation done, and the results of that were very promising, indicated that we were impacting on family violence. We're doing as rigorous evaluations as we can with our trust, but it does raise the question of the fact that our findings are showing really significant results. But for us to take that further and do some comparison elsewhere, which is what the next step needs really, that really does need more funding beyond the scope of where a small organisation as such as ours could envisage doing.
Sure.
But I would have thought that governments would be interested in the fact that our results are showing effectiveness in reducing family violence, reducing criminal offending, reducing substance abuse, and enhancing the safety of children. That's what our results are showing. And I would have thought that governments would be interested in that to the extent that they would be investing funds in having a look at, does this mean that there's the same difference to be made in Wellington and in Auckland? If we took a sample of families in Auckland or Wellington, say, who look like ours and introduced the same intervention, would we get the same result? And if we did, I would think that would be a very sensible use of funds.
Sure.
And it would show the path forward in terms of child abuse prevention.
We referred to Family Start at the start of the show, and that is government funded, isn't it? Completely government funded. What level of funding do you get from the government at the moment?
About a third.
A third of your funding comes from the state, Have you had much in the way of positive signals from the new government? Prime Minister Key, Minister Bennett, what do they make of it?
Well, they've continuously said that they'll back what works, so I think that's great. They've also made a lot of comments about being concerned about child abuse and wanting to do something about it. We've yet to see the detail, I guess.
Yeah. Ideally, as we mentioned before, of these 100 children born in Christchurch every year in crisis situations, you only have the resources for a third of them at the moment. You'd obviously love to work with all of those children. And you referred to Auckland, Wellington before. They don't have a service like this up north, do they?
Well, they have pockets of similar, agencies doing similar kinds of work, but certainly not the same model, that we have initiated here. Yeah. So it really does bear investigation, to have a look at whether a similar intervention elsewhere would have the same.
There's also some emerging evidence coming from overseas that is suggesting that actually if you do work with this particular heavy-handed group, you actually get better results than if you work with the lower level of risk group.
Sure, Just a couple of social issues. Would one of your social workers at some point say to a mother, I really think you should stop reproducing until you get your life in order?
Yes.
Will you go that far?
Yes.
Yeah. And will they listen?
Well, as far
to say.
Probably the response to that, they'll listen to the extent that they've engaged and have a really good relationship with that social worker. And it's the relationship skills that, they really are the key.
Building the trust.
Yes, effectiveness in that. Yeah.
Okay. Now, if people would like to donate, you can do so online, familyhelptrust.org.nz.
That's correct.
In broad terms, if I gave you $6,000, how much?
I'd kiss you.
Seriously? Might put that to the test. $6,000, how much good could that do?
Well, that would provide a full intensive service for one family for 1 year.
Yeah. And if we were to have all of those 100 children in Christchurch covered every year, the asking price would be, what, about 30 million? Or is that nationwide?
Yes, well, that would be nationwide, yes.
Right.
Yes.
So those bottom 2% is across the nation,
Yes,
$30 million. I mean, it actually doesn't sound a hell of a lot, does it, really?
Not when you look at, compare with some of the other budget demands on government budgets.
Yeah. Do you find it hard to go home at the end of the day and leave this job behind you? Is it all-consuming?
No, it's actually very rewarding.
Yeah.
You see, the thing is that our families, that's fathers and mothers, are really committed to making a change. That's the wonderful thing about this, you know, that actually if you intervene with families, to all intents and purposes, who look like, you know, nothing's going to work, everything's failed, actually, if you do that with a focus on their baby, on their new baby, it seems to work. They really want
Did you read the John McCrone report?
Yes.
Right.
And if you haven't seen it, by the way, the John McCrone report in the mainland a few weeks ago, if you click on the press website, you'll find it, Family Help Trust. We have to go. Thank you very much for joining us. familyhelptrust.org.nz. Your donations would be most welcome. Thanks for your company. See you next time. Good night.